Hello everyone, this is the guy that's here to suffer with you guys, and welcome back to today's AFK journey video. So for this AFK journey video, before you guys are wondering, why is this guy here to suffer with you guys? Okay, so yesterday I had a joke with like my viewers on Discord, so I was telling them that yeah, like we're all here to suffer for AFK journey itself, right? So my job is to make your journey more enjoyable by giving you guys like quality contents, and then right, enjoying our AFK journey together. So that probably will be my new outro, but I'm thinking of how to rephrase it to make it like nicer in the outro side. So stay tuned for that, right, for those of you guys who actually asked for it. Okay, now for today's video, right, to make your journey better, especially for those of you guys who are new to the game, we are going to talk about all the end game meta teams for the pre-season bosses. So I don't have like a brand new meta account to show you guys, but I do have some infographics right here for Croaker, right, for Yeti, for Necrodrakon, as well as Skyclop. So TLDR, I call this Yeti because this was Snow Stomper's previous name, Snow Yeti. So if you guys hear me say Yeti, is referring to Snow Stomper. And in today's video, right, we are going to talk about the pre-season teams that you guys want to use for maximum damage for the different bosses with the pre-season artifacts and the pre-season mechanics. Okay, so obviously this is not for the existing players in the Song of Strife season. I'm sorry for that, but I'm here to make everybody's journey better. So right, let's start with the very first thing, which is the artifacts first. So for the artifact side, right, for this Dream Realm in the pre-season itself, there's usually only 3 artifacts being used: Starshot Spell, right, Enlightening Spell, Blazing Spell in most cases, because these artifacts are the one that gives you more damage while giving you additional HP or additional haste or even defenses to survive a little bit better. So most of the time it will be Starshot Spell, because this is the highest damage increase artifact for most teams out there. There will be situations where you might need to use Awakening Spell if you have issues surviving. So for Dream Realm itself, the basic is simple, right? You need to survive well enough or long enough to do maximum damage. So step 1 is you must survive. Step 2 is do maximum damage. So you have to adjust the artifacts based on your current power level, the tiers of your character, the levels of your account, as well as obviously the units that you're using. Okay, so this part is flexible, but most of the time people will be using Starshot Spell for maximum damage. Okay, so that's for the artifact side. Next, let's talk about the unit. So I will be presenting this all in infographic manner, and this is basically a team builder ATEK, right, by Analytica, which I'll also link in the description down below, right? This ATEK right here, so you can throw in all the units and then showcase your arena teams, showcase your Dream Realm teams, and then share with other people. Okay, so that's for the ATEK side, right? So for this team, or for this presentation, I'll start off with talking about the best units of each category, right, assuming you have the EX weapon for the characters, because most of these characters, they're actually only really good after you get their EX weapon. For example, like Reina, you need the EX weapon for the massive debuff. For our dear Smokey, you need the EX weapon for that massive damage, and for like example, for Merrily, you need the EX weapon for the true damage to kick in. Same thing for Corinne as well. So a bunch of these units out there, they need their EX weapon to be good. So I'm just assuming if you got EX weapon, these are the best characters for each category out there. Okay, so for top supports, we have Reina, right? Let me go into the support side. So top support, we have Reina, which is the Hypergene character for the debuff. We have Mikola, the recent addition to the game, one of the best buffers with heals in the team, in the game. We have Coco, one of the best defensive buffer for Massive Shield as well as survival. So if you have issues surviving, putting Coco in most of the time will ensure that you survive for most bosses. So that's one thing that you guys can consider. And then obviously we have one of the strongest support, Smokey, damage, heal, as well as buff all together. We have Ludovic, one of the recent addition in the game, massive heals and quite a bit of damage on certain bosses. So that's for the top supports. And then we have the top buffers and debuffers. So top buffer, without a doubt, I think is Shakir right now, together with Mikola. Like, Mikola is technically a buffer and a heal, but I classify her as a support because she's a support character. But Shakir is like this warrior character that is mostly there for the Lupin Aura, which is a massive buff for Dream Realm damage. And then we have Cassidy for more magical debuffs. So you run Cassidy in certain teams where you can abuse the magical debuff. For example, if you're running OD team, and right now the strongest carry in the game is Lily May, which is a magical attack attacker, so you can definitely put Cassidy with her as well. And then we have Kruger, which is a physical defense debuffer, and then we have Termasia as well, physical defense once you have the Supreme Plus and the EX weapon ability. Also good damage and pretty okay for Necrodrakon, right? So that's for the debuffer and buffer category. Then we have the AoE / frontliner units. For AoE side, I think in this boss most of the good units are single target units, but there are certain mechanics on certain bosses where you need AoE. So right now the only one in preseason is Skyclop. So mostly you use AoE for Skyclop, so Talene and Skalita. But Skalita is true damage, so to a certain extent it's also for their Celestial Hypogean factional link for additional stats. For Ree's case, this spiky hair character right here, spiky hair Mauler character right here, this character is not only good for AoE, this character also has quite good mobility, moves around quite a bit, so okay for Necrodrakon as well in case you need a mobility Mauler physical side with Kruger, for example. So frontliners without a doubt is Torrent as well as Freesto. Freesto being the better one, being able to damage as well as buff up your team. Torrent is mostly there in the preseason for protection purposes as well as the ultimate reflect damage, because Torrent didn't get a seasonal skill for more debuffs on the boss yet. So mostly for defensive purposes. Later I'll talk about his use as well as the positioning. And then for top DPS unit, Lily May is currently the strongest in terms of overall damage, but true damage dealers like Corinne and Merrily, they're still okay, viable. If you don't have Lily May built up, or you don't plan to put for Lily May, then you can use Corinne and Merrily just in the intermediary position. Okay, then the magical side, we have Elsa and Odie, the Mauler DPS magical damage dealer. So this is the best units of each class for this game mode, assuming you got EX weapon for them. Okay, so now let's move on to the low budget meta teams. Okay, let's move on to the teams for Croaker. So I will be recommending teams for 3 different categories for each of the bosses, and then later on I'll move into the game to showcase certain team movements for those teams where there are some unit movements involved, so you guys know how the movement should be like and why the unit works like this. So for the free-to-play low-budget meta teams itself, I think it's pretty consistent in terms of the units that you'll be using, because you'll be using Torrent, you'll be using Smokey, you'll be using Reina together with Lady May, plus like 1 or 2 carries out there. It's just that I think the positions might be different for different accounts depending on how strong your units are, and like certain teams have different variations, right, in terms of the free-to-play side. But most of the units, generally, they are pretty free-to-play friendly, and they are, I'll say, like 1 Celestial Hypogean base, because you only have like that much resources to build out 1 Celestial Hypogean. So they are the more free-to-play low-budget teams in terms of the recommendation. And then we have obviously the Megalodon pay-to-win teams, which are usually teams with a bunch of Celestial Hypogean units. There are certain bosses where you don't need that many Celestial Hypogean to actually do a lot of damage, but right now I think at least in the current season, in the preseason, I think most of the Celestial Hypogean units, they will be the top tier units for maximum damage output. Okay, so now for the low budget team, right, for Croaker, let's start with Croaker first. So obviously we are using Starshot spell, we're using Torrent, and we're using Smokey together with Lily May and Reina. So the 2-team alternative is switching Odie for Merrily or using Corinne for additional protection. So if you choose Odie, you get like more factional bonus, because you then have Smokey, Odie with Reina for your Mauler team, right? If you run Merrily, you don't have that 10% bonus. So depending on how strong your Merrily is, depending on how strong your OD is, and depending on how well we can survive, you make that necessary adjustments against Croaker. But OD even in the end game is pretty okay against Croaker. Just spam through the ultimate, proc your Starshot spell, do a lot of damage, and then let Lily May as well as your Smokey do a lot of damage from there. So Torrent is obviously there for the insta-kill ability of Croaker. So you need the EX weapon to get 3 lives on Torrent to just buy enough time to let your other units do damage, because Croaker has 3 insta-kill instances. So 1, 2, 3. Oh no, yeah, 3. So you have to use up all of Torrent's lives, which is 1 life from the skill, 1 life from the EX weapon, and then 1 life which is Torrent himself. So you need Torrent. Like in this case, for Croaker specifically, you definitely need Torrent if you are free to play, because you need some way to negate the insta kill. If you are a whale, you have other ways to do it, which I'll explain later down there with the Megalodon pay to win team. But in terms of the low budget team, let me go into the game itself to show you guys the formation. So in terms of the lineup for this free-to-play team itself, this is how your team will look like, right? In terms of fighting the boss. So let me put Torrent, let me put Reyna, let me put Lily May, and then let me put, for example, OD for the stats bonus. So if you use Merrily, you don't have this factional bonus. So this is one way to keep yourself tanky, but you can, if your Merrily does more and gives you more damage overall and you have no issue surviving, then you can run Merrily. Okay, so that's for the stats thing that I mentioned. So you can obviously use Corinne as well for shielding as well as true damage if you have Corinne with the EX weapon. And Torrent is basically there to just move in front, tank up Croaker's insta-kill, and then buy more time for the team, right? And protect Reyna in case your Reyna is really low tier, because I know a lot of people will just build Reyna to M+, so your Reyna will be a little bit frail. Either that, you can also protect OD if your OD has issues surviving. If your Reyna has EX10, then you don't have to care so much about Lily May, because Lily May has damage reduction plus invincibility on her own. Together with heal of Smokey, usually you don't have an issue. So if your Smokey is not that tanky and you don't have a lot of stats on him, then you want to shift him back and then you put your Reyna here as well. So this is one team alternative in terms of the position for Croaker. And then let us move on to the Megalodon team. So Megalodon team is the latest variation in terms of the best damage for the Song of Strife season, but instead of using the evocation spell, you're using the Starshot spell for the haste as well as the damage. So Talon right here has the ability to provide a revive for a teammate, and then when you put this Feresto in this position, what happened is one of your Feresto, okay, I can showcase the team and then I will talk about the positioning in terms of how the units will move. So what happens is, let's say if you use Talon together with Feresto, for example, I think it's here, right? Let me just readjust the positions a little bit. So my Talon is really low level, but just here. And then we put Smokey and Mikola. That's my Smokey. Smokey here, and then Mikola here. Okay, so for this team itself, your main damage source actually comes from, oh wait, Smokey here, Lily May here. Okay, so your main damage source actually comes from Feresto and Mikola, as well as Talon, as well as Lily May. So all your units are able to do damage, and what will happen is your illusion over here will actually move up and draw the attention of Croaker for the very first insta-kill. So once this illusion gets killed off, your main body, this is assuming you have EX15 by the way, right? This you need that EX15 ability to summon a brand new illusion so that you still have two bodies on the battlefield. And then, right, Talon over here can take one of the insta-kill, and then she has the ability to come back to life again. So you're using Talon as well as Feresto for the insta-kill mechanics for this one. And the advantage of this team is having quite a huge faction bonus right here, as you guys can see, as well as a bunch of really amazing damage dealers right here. So that's the Megalodon team, very expensive team right there. And then let's move on to the Feresto Graveborn team. So this is Feresto combined with Torrent with Ludovic as a support and damage dealer. So this is another team variant. You're using Ludovic behind the main Feresto to get the energy regen, so Ludovic can spam the ultimate to reposition the Bloomer field to do damage as well as heal your allies when necessary. So that's for King Croaker. Next, let's move on to Snow Stomper right here. Okay, but anyway, in terms of the units you can substitute for Croaker, it's kind of limited because you need to answer to two factors. Number one, you need to answer to the AoE, so you need some sort of heal, right? And you need insta-kill negation. So if you have the Feresto and Talon, you can use them because they have some sort of ways to keep themselves alive or resummon their illusions. If not, it's most of the time Torrent for most people, for free-to-play or low-budget players. You can obviously use Feresto together with Torrent and then modify the units accordingly based on the strengths of your units and then find out the best teams. But these are just like the optimal teams for the different groups of players with the different units, okay? So that's for Croaker. Next, let's move on to Snow Stomper. So Snow Stomper is a little bit special. For Snow Stomper specifically, you can actually use Blazing Spell, because Blazing Spell does damage pretty well, combined with the fact that you can't actually cast a lot of spells, right, when you are silenced by Snow Stomper. So Starshot Spell loses quite a bit of efficiency there, but most of the time, the haste that Starshot Spell is able to provide, as well as the ability to just do a little bit of true damage to just squeeze out more damage, is still invaluable. and that's why the Megalodon pay to win team is still able to abuse it. But for most teams, right, you want to have Blazing Spell if you can't survive well enough, and also Blazing Spell to do damage, right, because Blazing Spell has this fireball that hits the target, and then from there you can do damage from all the defense penetration boosts, as well as having more defense to last longer in battle. So for the free-to-play low budget team, pretty much same setup, just different positioning. If you have Torrent, use Torrent, protect it with Aldia, protect Lily May, or protect Merrily or Odie, up to you. I think protect Merrily will be more important because Merrily is actually a better prison breaker. So in the event if your Lily May gets trapped by the ice prison of this boss, then you can use Aldia Merrily to break it, because Odie as well as Corinne, they sometimes don't hit the ice prison, which slows down your damage output. So the mechanics to take note of for Yeti is to break out of the prison as fast as possible, as well as being able to do damage within the silence of this boss. So Lily May is special because her kit just works so well together that she bypasses the silence at least before she gets imprisoned. So she can spam her ultimate, she can use her ballet even when there's a global silence going on. So that's just how powerful Lily May is. And then Rainer is obviously there for the debuff, and then Torrent is there to protect one ally in the event your team is not as tanky, right? You link Torrent to one of the unit, and then he can take some damage for them while using the ultimate to retaliate a lot of damage on the boss. If you have Coco, you can use Coco, put Coco on the front line, and then let Coco get hit by the boss to proc her ultimate as fast as possible. Once you have the EX weapon of Coco, you'll get a massive shield, which will also keep your survival going, and this way you have more fractional bonus as well. So just make the adjustments to your team based on what you have, as well as the fractional bonus and survival side. So for the Megalodon pay to win team, we are using Skalita together with Torrent. So we are linking Skalita with Torrent because both Skalita and Torrent, they will be on the front line. So there's an ice breath from the Yeti itself where it will do a lot of damage that will kill your team. So that's where Skalita linked to Torrent will able to survive a little bit better and then do damage from there while buffing your team when she's in the air. So Skalita is two-faced, she will be in the air for the first 20 seconds, so she will get some shield off on the weakest ally while giving them a defense boost, so that will keep them alive. And then once she comes down, in the preseason, she doesn't have a seasonal skill. So for those of you guys who are wondering what's a seasonal skill, I'm going to go into my game, right? If you go into Skalita right here, Skalita in the preseason is more of a damage healer and shielder, but in the Song of Strife season itself, she actually has this Heart of Unity skill, which is a massive damage boost to your team. So in the Song of Strife, she's a buffer and a damage dealer as well as a shielder, but in the preseason, she's more like an AoE attacker as well as damage dealer and a shielder. So she doesn't have that buffing side, except for the defensive buff. Okay, so that's for the Megalodon team. And then we have the Shakir Mikola Aura team. So this is what I call like the Mauler melee. Previously, it was with Kruger. So if you guys search Z-Bass Snow Stomper team, I think that video has about 20-30,000 views. That is the previous most optimal team for Snow Stomper before the release of Lily May as well as Mikola. But right now with Mikola as well as Shakir in the pool, you can stack up Aura, and then you send Odie in with Rainer so that Odie is always on the front line. Being on the front line means that Odie will be able to benefit from both the auras of Shakir as well as Mikola, which gives him the damage reduction as well as the range defense, provided you have the EX weapon. Because Mikola with the EX weapon allows the ultimate to be permanent in Dream Realm, which means that the buff is ongoing. That's a lot of haste. Then Shakir is able to transform faster, giving that damage reduction to protect Odie. And then Lily May is obviously gonna spam her skill, being unaffected by the boss. So that's where you do damage. Okay. So specifically for this boss, I will encourage Blazing Spell most of the time because if you don't have enough sustain, having more defense is actually quite good to just ensure that you survive a little bit better and have the fireball help to break the ice prison as well. So that's one key part that the fireball is really good at, is to break you out of the prison, because there's a skill by Yeti which will prison your highest DPS unit. So you want to break out from there as fast as possible so that your DPS can continue to do damage. Okay, so that's for the 3 teams or the 3 different variants. Next, let's move on to Necrodrakon. So Necrodrakon is a boss where you talk about mobility, right? Talk about like the units being really mobile to prevent the debuffs from the boss. So for the low budget teams, it's mostly all the units that can move around. So you either run the light bearer team, which is Corin, Hermasia, and Lily May together with Marilee. They jump around, and the only immobile unit is Reyna, but Reyna is just there for the debuff. Or you just link Marilee to Torrent to protect Marilee in the event if your team cannot survive. Then that way, right, you still have mobility, because Hermasia on the whole with EX weapon can survive pretty well because she has some self-heal and she's a tank, so she tanks quite well. But Marilee on the other hand might not survive that well. So if your Marilee has issues surviving to the end of the battle, linking her to Torrent is one way to protect her. Okay, so that's for this team, for the free-to-play low budget side. For the Megalodon pay to win, this is how it looks like. So this is the I'm gonna send my Smokey in and just out heal you kind of concept. So for this one, it's relatively untested because this is currently the best team setup for the Song of Strife season, but that is with the evocation artifact. So with the Star Shot spell, it might not work. It might or might not work, but this is definitely the best team for damage dealing right now. Very, very pay to win because you're running the latest banner character, you're running 2 for Fresto. I mean, you're running 2 Celestial Hypergene unit, and then you're running Lily May, which is also a previous banner character. So you probably have to spend quite a bit if you're new to the game to actually get them all maxed out. So this is the Megalodon pay to win team. And then we have the Fresto mobility team. It's basically using Fresto for the buffing ability for your mobility unit, and then using Corin and Marilee based on who is your strongest light bearer after all the calculations and stuff. Okay, so that's for the Necrodrakon. Now to end off this video, we'll talk about Skyclops. So for Skyclops, you guys will realize the low budget teams, they are pretty similar, right? It's all the very, very constantly used budget friendly characters that you guys can use. And for the Skalita edition, the reason why Skalita is recommended there is because Skalita is there for the AoE damage to clear the summons as fast as possible, because Lily May as well as Marilee, they ain't exactly the fastest killers for the summons. Marilee is okay. Marilee hits really, really fast if she builds up her stacks, but if you have Lily May and your Skalita, you'll be able to kill the summons faster, and that's where you will be able to do a lot of damage, because when the summons are on the field, Skyclops is invincible, so you lose a lot of damage if you don't clear them fast enough. So with Lily May as well as Marilee as well as Skalita, you will have enough damage as well as enough clearing power to ensure maximum damage. But if you don't have Skalita, it's fine, just use Torrent. Protect whatever unit you need to protect with Torrent. Put it in front of Odie, put it in front of Marilee to just link up and protect them. So that's the low budget side. And then for the pay to win team, right, Taylin for that heal, for the AoE damage, as well as the quick AoE clearing for the summons itself. And then we have Marilee, obviously highest damage dealer, Smokey for the buff, Reyna for the debuff, as well as Fresto for the respective buff. So we are giving the energy regen to Taylin for her to keep the uptime on her ultimate, and that's for the Megalodon pay to win team. And then we have the Aura meta team right here, which is one of the latest variations. So this is one team which I didn't have the opportunity to try with Starshot spell because you might have some issues surviving, so just try and error with this. But this is the best team on the Song of Strife season, taking out, I think, Mikola for Taylin, for example. Yeah, but this is the more budget-friendly option with just Fresto in the team without Reyna, just one Celestial Hypergene. So that's pretty much it for the different teams, right, for the different bosses. Okay, so let me just quickly run through the teams once again. So this is for Croaker, right, free to play, Megalodon, Fresto, Graveborn, okay, and then we have Snow Stomper, take a screenshot if you want to, right, Megalodon, Shakir, Mikola, Aura, as well as low budget. Then we have Necrodrakon right here, okay. Most of the mobility teams or units are okay. So if you want, you can actually switch out for example, like one of your AoE attacker for Reese, if you did train Reese out. The issue with Reese is just that usually you have a lot of good S-class smaller characters like Elsa, Shakir. So Reese is often like the middle of the pack, which is why people don't consider this unit, because it's like it's too middle, right, for it to be a top investment. But you can definitely use Reese here for this boss, as well as for Skyclops, for AoE, as well as the mobility that Reese can offer. So that's pretty much it, right? Just a very, very simple meta team showcase or discussion for the different meta teams for the pre-season Dream Realm bosses itself. Hopefully it's helpful for the newcomers, and hopefully I'm here to make your AFK journey better. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!